all her life, looked down on by her own family, until the day she walked into the room and silenced everyone. "Hello, I'm the CEO." The Christmas lights twinkle like they're mocking me, casting a warm glow over the dining room in my parents' Springfield, Illinois, home. I'm Claire Thompson, 35, sitting at the table, the smell of roasted turkey and Mom's cranberry sauce thick in the air. My family's laughter bounces off the walls, but I feel like I'm underwater, drowning in a familiar ache. My sister Megan, with her perfect highlights and sharper tongue, is holding court, regaling everyone with tales of her latest project management triumph. She's always been the sun in this family. And I'm the shadow no one notices. Then, like a knife slipped between ribs, she turns to me, her smile dripping with condescension. "Claire, still doing that boring paperwork job? You'll never get anywhere." Her voice is light, but it cuts deep. Mom lets out a laugh that's sharper than it sounds, and Dad focuses intently on his plate, like he can disappear into his mashed potatoes. I hold the sting in my throat, my face neutral. To them, I've always been someone to overlook, safe to underestimate. I grip my fork, the metal biting into my palm, and force a smile. "Yeah, it's fine, sis," I say, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Fine. That's what I've always been, the fine, forgettable Claire. The one who doesn't make waves. My red sweater feels too tight, my hair tied back too plain, like I'm playing the part they've cast me in. They don't know the truth. That I've built something big, something that could swallow Megan's projects whole. But I've never said a word. Let them think I'm still shuffling papers. Her laugh lingers, high and careless, as she sips her wine. "Seriously, Claire, don't you ever want to do something with your life?" Mom nods, chiming in, "You could take a page from Megan's book, honey." She's always been so driven. The words are a blade, twisting in the wound of years spent being less than. I want to scream, to flip the table and tell them I'm not the failure they think. But I don't. I sit there, my heart pounding, feeling the weight of every Christmas, every dinner, where I've been the punchline or the afterthought. Dad finally looks up, but his "pass the gravy" is all he offers, like I'm not even here. The room spins, the festive glow blurring as I fight the urge to bolt. Why does it still hurt? I've spent years proving them wrong in secret, building an empire while they assume I'm shuffling papers in some cubicle. Megan's smirk, Mom's dismissive nod, they're betraying the version of me they've never bothered to know. I'm not just hurt, I'm furious, a quiet rage simmering beneath my polite smile. I could tell them right now, watch their jaws drop, but something holds me back. Maybe it's the fear they'd only pretend to care, or worse, find a way to make my success about Megan again. I take a sip of water, the cold shocking my throat, grounding me. Let them think what they want. I know who I am. But as Megan launches into another story, her voice drowning out the carols playing softly, I feel the crack in my armor widen. This isn't just a bad night, it's a mirror of every moment I've been invisible. And I'm not sure how much longer I can stay silent. The clatter of dessert plates yanks me from the Christmas table's haze, but the sting of Megan's words, "You'll never get anywhere," burns like a brand. I'm Claire Thompson, 35, staring at a faded family photo on the living room wall of our Springfield, Illinois, home. In it, Megan's all-prom queen glow, while I'm a scrawny kid lurking behind, eyes downcast. The laughter around me fades as I slip into memories of childhood, where I was always in Megan's shadow. The past rushes in, sharp and merciless, each moment a reminder that I've never been enough for this family. Their betrayal, never seeing me, always choosing her, cuts deeper than any lover's lie, and it's been bleeding since I was a kid. I'm 12 again, clutching a math contest trophy, my chest puffed with pride. I race home to show Mom, but she barely glances up from her coffee. "Study too much, you'll have no friends," she says, her voice flat. Her words cut deeper than I admitted, planting a seed of doubt I carried for years. I wanted her to see me, to say I was special. But she was too busy bragging about Megan's cheerleading stunts. That trophy ended up in a box under my bed, next to dreams I learned to hide. Why did I think they'd care? The ache wasn't anger, it was a quiet bruise, spreading each time I was overlooked. Flash to 16, the night of Megan's junior prom. She's a vision in her sparkly dress, and I'm just the kid fetching her hairpins. I accidentally spill marinara sauce on her ham, and her scream echoes through the house. Claire, you always ruin everything. Mom rushes in, scolding me, not her. I apologized, but the label of failure stuck, etched into every family gathering. I stood there, face burning, as Dad muttered, "Be more careful." Claire and Megan flounced off to her adoring friends. I wasn't clumsy, I was invisible, a prop in her perfect story. Their dismissal was a betrayal, one I swallowed to keep the peace. Those moments pile up like stones in my chest, heavy and unyielding. Megan got the spotlight, homecoming court, honor roll, the driven daughter, while I was the quiet one, the bookworm who'd never shine. Even at Thanksgiving dinners or 4th of July barbecues, their praise for her drowned out my small victories. I'd sit silently, picking at my plate, wondering why I bothered trying. Yet, as I trace the frame of that old photo, I wonder why their approval still matters. The hurt isn't rage, it's a dull throb, a longing to be seen without begging for it. Back in the present, the room hums with chatter, but something in me stays locked in that photo, quiet, distant, half-formed. Megan's laugh rings out again, followed by Mom's familiar nod of approval, and for a second, it's like nothing's changed. I run my fingers along the photo's frame, each ridge a year I spent waiting to be acknowledged. I've built an entire life beyond this room, but sometimes, the girl who once begged for a glance still lingers. And as the carols drift through the air, I wonder if letting go of that hope is even possible. The Christmas chatter fades as I clutch my coffee mug, Megan's smirk still searing my brain. You'll never get anywhere. I'm Claire Thompson, 35, trapped in my parents' Springfield, Illinois, living room, where I'm forever the invisible sister. While my family assumes I'm stuck in a dead-end job, I've built something extraordinary, hidden in plain sight. They think I'm shuffling papers, but I'm saving companies, leading a team of 20, and proving I'm more than their boring Claire. Yet the betrayal of their blindness, never seeing me, always choosing Megan, gnaws at me, a wound that festers even as I thrive. I started as a junior accountant, crunching numbers in a cubicle that smelled of stale coffee. Nights were spent teaching myself Python, building financial software from scratch. No one handed me anything, I clawed my way up, driven by a fire they'll never understand. 3 years ago, I founded BrightPath, turning my code into a lifeline for struggling businesses. Last spring, a client, a small brewery on the brink, grabbed my hand, eyes shining. "Claire, you saved our company." "You're a genius," he said. Their gratitude fuels me, a quiet validation I never sought from home. Each contract, each thank you, is a brick in the empire I've built, one my family knows nothing about. Why the silence? I don't need Megan's spotlight. My success is mine. I could have bragged at this table, watched Mom's jaw drop, Dad's fork freeze mid-bite. But their praise would feel hollow, tainted by years of dismissal. I didn't build BrightPath for them, I built it for me, to prove I'm not the failure they see. Still, the loneliness stabs. I imagine Mom saying, "Claire, you did this?" Or Dad nodding with pride. But they're too busy fawning over Megan's latest promotion. Blind to the daughter who's outshone their star. Their betrayal isn't just ignoring me, it's assuming I'm nothing. My office in Chicago, with its skyline view and a team that thrives on collaboration, feels like another universe compared to this room full of antique furniture and unspoken judgments. There, my ideas matter. A post-it once stuck to my monitor reads, "Boss, you're killing it." It's still there, creased, a little faded, but more meaningful than any applause I've ever craved from this table, and yet, as I sit among the clinking silverware and predictable conversation, I feel that ache stir. Not for their praise, not anymore, but maybe for the silence to end. Maybe just once. I wanted them to realize they were wrong. Not to validate me, but to acknowledge what they never took the time to see. The coffee in my mug has long gone cold, but my resolve hasn't. Megan launches into another tale of a boardroom win, commanding the room like always. I could speak up, drop a single sentence that would shift the ground beneath their feet. But I stay quiet. Not because I'm afraid. Because I've already said it, to myself, to the world I built, to the people who see me every day. They don't have to see me. I do. And that, finally, is enough. For now, my phone buzzes like a wasp in my Chicago apartment, shattering the quiet of a February evening. I'm Claire Thompson, 35, still raw from Christmas, when Megan's sneer, "You'll never get anywhere," cut me to the bone. Her desperation catches me off guard, a crack in the perfect image she's always projected. Her voice, usually all polish, trembles through the speaker. "Claire, I lost my job. Company cutbacks. Know anyone in Chicago for a gig?" I freeze, coffee mug halfway to my lips, as the irony hits like a freight train. My sister, the golden child who's always belittled me, is begging me for help, oblivious that I'm the CEO of Brightpath Consulting, a firm she'd kill to work for. Their betrayal, never seeing me, always choosing her, twists the knife, but now fate's flipping the script. I could laugh, or cry, or tell her to figure it out. Instead, I murmur, "I'll ask around," my voice calm despite the storm inside. She doesn't know the Around is my own company, a $1 million empire she'd never credit me for. Days later, an HR email lands. Megan Harris applied. Good experience. Somehow, through a recruiter's blind referral, Megan's landed an interview for a project manager role at Brightpath. She has no idea I'm the one who'll decide her fate. She texts me, all gratitude, "Thanks, Claire. I really need this." Her words feel foreign. A glimpse of a sister I've never known, and it unsettles me. I pace my apartment, the Chicago skyline glittering outside, a reminder of the world I've built without them. Why does this feel like a betrayal reversed? Megan's spent years dismissing me, her boring sister, while I've poured my soul into Brightpath, saving businesses, earning respect she'll never understand. Now she's knocking on my door, clueless that the nobody she mocked holds her future. Part of me wants to reject her, to make her feel the sting of being unseen. But another part, small, stubborn, wonders if she'd see me differently if she knew. Is this my chance to finally be visible, or just another way to get hurt? I approve her interview, my fingers shaking as I type. This isn't about revenge, it's about truth, hers and mine. The thought of her walking into my office, all confidence, unaware I'm the boss, sends a jolt through me. What will she do when she knows I'm the one she's begging for a lifeline? The betrayal of her ignorance, of our family's refusal to see me, fuels a quiet fury. I've spent years proving I'm more than their assumptions, and now Megan's fate is in my hands. But do I want her to fail, or to finally see me? I sink onto my couch, the city's hum a distant pulse. This is bigger than a job, it's a reckoning. Megan's desperation, her rare humility, cracks open a door I thought was locked. I could slam it shut, or let her in, but either way, I'm not the Claire she knows anymore. As I stare at my phone, her thanks glowing on the screen, I feel the weight of my secret shift. Soon, whether she's ready or not, our worlds will collide, and I'll be the one standing tall. The Zoom screen flickers, and there's Megan, polished in a blazer. Unaware I'm watching from the shadows. I posing as support staff for my sister's interview. Watching her, I'm caught between the sister I know and the stranger trying to prove herself. Her voice, usually dripping with smugness, wavers as she says, "I'm great at leading teams. I'm not afraid of challenges." Her vulnerability surprises me, stirring questions I can't ignore. My heart races, not from nerves, but from the betrayal that's haunted me since Christmas, her words, "You'll never get anywhere," echoing like a curse. Now she's here, in my world, begging for a job she doesn't know I control. I stay silent, my camera off, letting HR grill her. Without her usual judgment, who is she? Is she genuine or just performing? Megan's not the sister who mocked my boring paperwork job at mom's table. She's nervous, fumbling a question about deadlines, her smile tight. This isn't the Megan who made me feel invisible. I could reveal myself now, say, I'm the CEO, sis, and watch her world tilt. But I don't. I need to see her raw, stripped of the superiority she's always wielded. The betrayal of her dismissal, of our family's blindness, burns, but so does my curiosity. Can she be more than the sister who hurt me? My fingers hover over the keyboard, itching to unmute. I've spent years building Brightpath, proving I'm not the failure they see, and now she's here, needing me. The irony is a blade, slicing through years of being sidelined. Part of me wants to crush her, to let her flounder in my domain. But another part, softer, wonders if she'd respect me if she knew. Is this my chance to be seen, or just another wound waiting to happen? I lean back, the city skyline glinting through my window, and let her talk. Her words, I thrive under pressure, sound rehearsed, but her eyes betray a flicker of doubt. I'm proud Brightpath drew her here, a testament to my success. But the hurt runs deep, she still doesn't see me, doesn't know I'm the one holding her fate. I think of Springfield. Of Mom's approving nods for Megan, Dad's silence for me. Their betrayal isn't just ignoring me, it's assuming I'm nothing. Watching Megan, I'm torn, proud of my empire, aching for her to know, curious if she'll change. What would she say if she knew I'm not just Claire, but the boss? I jot a note, my hand steady despite the storm inside. I'm not ready to step into the light, not yet. The interview ends, and HR signs off. Megan's face lingers on the screen, unaware of the truth just out of reach. I close my laptop, the hum of my office a quiet anchor. This silence is my power, my shield against their betrayal. But as I stare at the skyline, I feel the weight of what's coming. She'll know soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe at orientation, and when she does, I'll be ready. For now, I watch, waiting to see who she really is when the spotlight's gone. I walked into the conference room like it was just another orientation day, polished smile, strong coffee in hand, mentally ticking off my to-do list. The room buzzed with the usual chatter of new hires, fresh faces full of nerves and ambition. I scanned the room quickly, my eyes landing on her, Megan. She sat near the back, clutching her company folder like it was a lifeline. Her hair was perfectly curled. Laser sharp, confidence painted on like armor. But I saw the twitch in her jaw, the slight shake in her hand. She was nervous. That alone was enough to knock the air out of me. I wasn't used to seeing Megan vulnerable. HR cleared their throat and gestured for me to come forward. Everyone, meet Claire Thompson, our CEO and founder. The moment hung in the air like a thunderclap, Megan's head jerked up. Her expression froze mid-breath. She blinked, once. Twice. Then I saw it, pure shock rippling across her face. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Her coffee cup trembled in her hands, sloshing liquid onto the table. I met her gaze and nodded, steady and calm. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Brightpath. But inside, I was anything but calm. Her voice finally broke through the silence. Claire? She croaked, eyes wide. You're the CEO? I nodded again. Yeah, sis. Welcome to Brightpath. The room was dead silent, eyes bouncing between us like a tennis match. Megan didn't move, didn't speak. She just stared, her face morphing into something unreadable, shock, confusion, maybe shame. The same sister who once smirked at me across the dinner table, brushing me off as the family underachiever, was now sitting in my office. As my employee, I took a slow breath, forcing my heart to stop hammering in my chest. I had imagined this moment a dozen times, fantasized about what I'd say, how I'd feel. I thought it would be sweet, satisfying. It wasn't. It hurt, not because I wanted revenge, but because it took this, for her to finally see me. Not as the invisible sister or the butt of family jokes, but as someone who had built something real. Something powerful. Without her. Without any of them, she sat there, still stunned, the air between us charged with everything we'd never said. My eyes drifted to the HR manager, who continued the orientation like nothing happened. But I wasn't listening. I couldn't. All I could hear was the memory of Megan's voice from Christmas. Claire, still doing that boring paperwork job? I swallowed hard. Was this what vindication felt like? It wasn't the roaring applause I once dreamed of. It was quiet. Complicated. A mix of pride and sorrow. Power and grief. I wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of hiding my success just to keep peace at the dinner table. Tired of pretending I didn't care when I did. Megan's eyes stayed locked on me, searching for something, answers, maybe. Forgiveness. I didn't offer any. Not yet. The meeting moved on. Voices rising again, but we were stuck in a pocket of silence no one else could touch. As I stepped away from the front of the room, I caught one last glimpse of her. Her shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of truth finally settling in. For the first time, she didn't look above me, she looked up to me, and I didn't know if that healed anything. Or just broke something new. I didn't expect her to last a week. After the shock of orientation, I figured Megan would storm out, pride too bruised to handle the truth. But she came in the next morning, on time, head down, no dramatic exit or excuses. Just a quiet nod when our eyes met across the office, and then she got to work. At first, I watched from a distance. I told HR to treat her like any other new hire, no special treatment, no whispers about who she was to me. Still, people gossiped. Of course they did. That's her sister? The one who didn't know Claire was the CEO? I heard it all. But Megan never flinched. She kept her head down and took it, and I kept watching. She wasn't the same Megan I grew up with, the golden girl who basked in praise. Who mocked my quiet ambition and laughed off my dreams. This Megan stayed late, scribbled notes furiously during meetings, asked real questions, the kind that showed she was actually trying. She even botched a report once, missed a crucial deadline. The old Megan would have blamed someone else, made it look like my fault. This time? She owned it. I'm sorry, she told her team. That was on me. I'll fix it. And she did. Still, I didn't know what to make of it. Was this real? Or just a performance? A slow burn act for redemption? My chest stayed tight with doubt, even as I caught glimpses of something I'd never seen before, humility. One afternoon, I passed her office and saw her alone. Head in her hands. Not crying, just tired. I knew that look. I'd worn it 100 times building Brightpath from nothing. That was the first time I softened, just a little. A few days later, I found a small notebook left on the break room table. I opened it to a page folded over with a sticky note. Thanks, Brightpath, for the chance. I'm learning to be better. No name. No flourish. But I knew the handwriting. My hands trembled as I closed it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the words echoing louder than any apology. I wanted to feel triumphant. Vindicated. But all I felt was a deep ache, like grief. Not for what was, but for what we'd never had. For the years we wasted trying to outshine each other instead of reaching across the space between us. Was this her way of making amends? Or just her finally growing up? I didn't have answers, only questions that burned like fire behind my ribs. But I kept showing up. And so did she. Slowly, Megan started asking for feedback, not from me, but from her team. She stopped interrupting people. She stayed curious, not cocky. Bit by bit, she carved a new place for herself, not in my shadow, not above anyone, but as someone willing to earn her seat. I won't lie, it was strange. Watching her become someone I didn't recognize. Someone I might have respected if we hadn't spent years tearing each other down. Still, I kept my distance. My heart hadn't caught up with my eyes yet. Then came the moment I didn't expect. At the end of a long Friday, Megan passed by my office. She paused, hesitated like she was about to say something, but instead, she just gave a small nod, not the smirk I'd grown up with. Not smug. Just Honest, for the first time in a long time, I nodded back. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure, but maybe, just maybe, it was a start. I knew walking into my parents' house that night would stir old ghosts. Mom's birthday dinner was always a performance: roast chicken, store-bought cake dressed up as homemade. And that forced cheerfulness that cracked if you looked too closely. I had barely stepped into the living room before Megan was handing out wine and Dad was launching into his usual. "So, Claire, still crunching numbers at that little accounting job of yours?" Like clockwork, I felt my spine stiffen. Same line, same dismissive tone. I glanced at Megan, expecting her usual smirk, her silence. But something was different. She looked at Dad. Then at me. And then she stood up, slowly, like she was lifting the weight of every year she'd let me take the hit. "Dad," she said, loud enough to silence the room. "Claire's not an accountant." The conversation froze mid-bite. Even Mom paused mid-sip, glass hovering just beneath her lip. "She's the founder and CEO of Brightpath Consulting," Megan continued, voice steady. "A multi-million-dollar company. I work for her now." You could have heard a pin drop. I stared at her, heart thudding so hard I thought it might echo through my ribs. She wasn't looking for approval. She wasn't performing. She was standing in the fire. "For me, I used to joke Claire was just a boring numbers girl," she said, and her voice cracked just slightly. "But I was wrong. She's smarter, stronger, and more resilient than I ever gave her credit for." Dad blinked. "Wait. You work for Claire?" Megan didn't flinch. "Yes. And I'm proud of it." I looked down at my plate, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or run. For so long, I'd dreamed of this moment, being seen, finally. But now that it was happening, I felt exposed. Vulnerable. Like standing on stage in front of people who never believed in your act, only now they're forced to listen. Mom gave a weak chuckle. "Well, that's surprising." Megan turned to her. "Why?" "Because Claire doesn't talk about herself constantly? She built something incredible without needing any of us to clap for her. That's strength. Real strength." The words hit like a wave. Not because they were dramatic, but because they were true. And they came from Megan, my sister, my biggest rival, my shadow and my storm. For a second, I didn't know how to feel. The old anger bubbled up, too little, too late. But beneath it, something else bloomed: relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for a decade and someone finally told me it was safe to exhale. The dinner shifted after that. The air grew less tight. Dad mumbled something about being impressed. Mom tried to steer the conversation back to Megan's high school trophies, but even she couldn't ignore the shift in the room. Later, in the kitchen, just the two of us stood over the sink, rinsing dishes in silence. "Thanks," I said finally, not looking up. Megan wiped her hands on a towel and met my eyes. "For what? Just telling the truth?" I smiled. "That's all I ever wanted." She nodded. "Well, I'm starting to understand that now. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But we didn't need to. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. She'd done it for me. In front of the very people who spent years pretending I was invisible. And that meant everything. The sink was filled with soapy water, the scent of lemon dish soap cutting through the lingering smell of birthday candles and roast chicken. Megan stood beside me, silently scrubbing a plate while I dried the silverware, our arms moving in rhythm like we'd done this 1,000 times before. Only this time, the silence between us wasn't stiff or bitter. It was something else, something tentative, the kind of silence that asks, "Are we okay?" I didn't know what I expected after her public defense of me. Maybe a clumsy apology, maybe her usual self-deprecating humor. But none of that came. And strangely, I didn't need it. Her words earlier had cracked open something between us that had been sealed shut for too long. Still, my heart was unsettled. "I meant what I said tonight," she murmured, rinsing off a casserole dish. Her voice was soft, almost nervous. In case you were wondering. I nodded, drying my hands on a towel. I know. I could have said more. I could have unpacked the years of silence, of being dismissed, ignored, ridiculed, sometimes with a joke, sometimes with a look. I could have told her how much it hurt to be the sister who disappeared in every room we shared. But I didn't. Because in that moment, her presence was louder than any apology she could offer. I didn't realize how much I didn't see you, she said, placing a plate on the drying rack. I think. I didn't want to. That hit harder than I expected. Because it was true. She had always chosen not to see me. But hearing her say it, own it, felt like a bomb I didn't know I needed. I leaned against the counter, watching the soap bubbles drift and pop. You know what's funny? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. For years, I thought I wanted some big apology. Like you were gonna show up with flowers and a speech and say you were sorry for never believing in me. She glanced at me. Eyes uncertain. And now? I shrugged. Now? I think I just wanted to be seen. Not as the boring sister. Not as someone safe to laugh at. Just me. She dried her hands and stood beside me, silent. The kitchen buzzed faintly with the sound of our parents in the living room, voices low, TV humming in the background. But it felt like we were in our own little world. I don't know how to make up for all of it, she said finally. But I see you now. I really do. I smiled, not from joy, but from something deeper, acceptance. That's enough, I whispered. That's more than enough. She nodded, eyes glossy but holding steady. No tears, no drama. Just truth hanging heavy and beautiful between us. There are wounds words can't heal. And there are moments where words aren't needed at all. This was one of them. We finished the dishes quietly, side by side, no longer as strangers pretending to be sisters, but as women finally learning to meet each other where we really were. Not in the shadows of old roles or buried resentments, but in the quiet understanding that we had both grown, both changed. Later that night, as I lay in the childhood bedroom that never felt like mine, I thought about how strange it is, how the people who hurt you the most can also be the ones who teach you what healing really looks like. It's not always loud. It doesn't always come wrapped in an apology. Sometimes, healing is just being seen, and for once, I was. The morning after Mom's birthday party, Megan and I walked side by side down the winding path of Lincoln Park, paper coffee cups in hand. The air was crisp with that early spring bite, where winter still lingers in the shadows, but the sunlight dares you to believe warmth is coming. It felt like the first breath after a long time underwater. We didn't speak much. We didn't have to. The rhythm of our steps, the occasional brush of our jackets, the way our laughter rose, hesitant at first, then freer, was enough. So, she finally said, tipping her head toward me, I've got a pitch meeting next week. Marketing strategy for the new client. I smiled, sipping my coffee. You ready? Getting there, she said. Then paused. Claire. Thank you. Again. For everything. Not just the job. But. Her voice trailed off, then returned, steadier. For giving me a chance to change. I didn't answer right away. There was a time I would have scoffed at that. A time I would have demanded more recognition, more guilt, more anything. But not now. Not today. You're doing the work, I said. That's what matters. We passed a young girl flying a neon pink kite, her dad cheering her on from the bench. The breeze picked up, lifting the kite higher into the sky. I watched it dance and thought about all the years I spent trying to lift myself in silence, waiting for someone, anyone, to look up and notice. Megan didn't look up back then. But she was looking now. You know, she said, after a beat, you always seemed so small to me growing up. But now I realize, you were never small. I just wasn't ready to see how big you really were. I chuckled softly, not out of mockery, but relief. That makes two of us, I said. I spent years shrinking just to survive in this family. Now, I don't think I could fit in that old version of me if I tried. We stopped near the lakefront. The water shimmered, soft waves brushing the shore. Megan turned to me, her expression open and unguarded. Do you think we can really start over? She asked. I looked at her, really looked at her. Not the version I held onto in my memories, all sharp edges and smug grins. But the woman beside me now, willing to grow, to listen, to be present. We're not starting over, I said. We're just finally starting. She nodded, and we stood there for a long moment, watching the world move around us. Joggers, dogs, cyclists, all caught in their own lives. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was watching from the outside. I was here. I belonged, and Megan? She wasn't the rival anymore. She was my sister. There would still be wounds. Memories that stung unexpectedly. Family dinners where old habits tried to creep back in. But now, I had a voice. And more importantly, I had peace. As we turned to head back, the path stretching ahead like an invitation, I thought of something I once wrote in my journal during those loneliest nights in Chicago. All I want is to walk beside someone who sees me. And now, I was not behind. Not beneath. Not invisible, beside, and maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of everything I never thought I'd have. If this movie touches your heart, please leave your mark with a like and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to discover more meaningful stories.